Hello everyone, and welcome back to the city of Truffmont in Cities Skylines 1. My name is Lawford, and I'm doing this build after 8 years of not playing Cities Skylines. We're coming back to a naturally growing city. We're trying to build this into the most natural and realistic city we can on a vanilla install, so there's no DLC and no mods. In our last episode, we built out our bypass and our first bus line, along with an expressway for buses. So in previous episodes, we built out this little development out here, and this community is very quiet. It's at the end of the bypass. It has a couple small commercial spaces. In this episode, we'll be doing a little more development up in this forested area where we can build more remote housing. So let's get started. Since the last episode, I've expanded the city's water availability and sewage output to prepare ourselves to move forward. So before we actually start building our residential, what I want to do is deal with one possible problem, and that's our bus line. In the last episode, we put in this bus line for the first time, and it's going quite well. It's getting quite a bit of usage, 176 per week for our small community, but we do have a little bit of a problem. All of our buses have about a capacity of 30. And yet our stops are filling up quite a bit. You can see we have a couple buses coming in here, and it's just not quite enough to use up all of this demand. They're quite full going all the way through. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a change to this vehicle. We're going to change the vehicle to be a double-decker bus. This adds quite a bit of capacity. We may be able to use fewer vehicles in time, but we're going to see how this goes. So let's go ahead and change that. What's going to happen is all of our existing buses all are going to return to the depot. And you can see that's what they're doing. They're all heading back to the depot from this line. And the depot is over here in this industrial section. The depot is putting out the new double-decker buses already and onto this line. And then the old buses are returning and being stored in the depot. So it will take a little bit for all of these to circle around and do what they need to do to join the line, to leave the line. So we will see how that goes over time, but for now, we're going to continue on with building in the rest of our city. Another thing we need to do is deal with a little trash problem. We will see some, I think we might be seeing some throughout the city. Not many yet. But we do have an issue where our landfill is full. And that's okay. We have a second landfill, but it has only a certain number of garbage trucks, and now none of the trucks on the original landfill site are in use. So we have fewer trucks collecting trash. There's going to be some issues with that over time, I'm sure. So what we're going to do first, before we do any more expansion, is we're going to expand this industrial zone. So you can see what I've done is I've added multiple new landfills. There's 2 new landfills there, and that gives a lot more trucks, a lot more space. We're putting a little bit of overbuilding here. We don't necessarily need that much, but it's nice to have that. More trucks and more space, kind of spread out the trash. We also are solving another problem, which is we're providing more trucks out of there, so there won't be that same issue where we'll have some areas that don't have trash and others do trash service. So we can see that with our garbage view. The trucks are going out right now. And what we can do now is then focus on our development. We have all our capacity built up, and we can start building out over here. Now what I want to do is I want to build a more rural kind of road feel, and I want to develop the zoning in that same way. Right now, I've zoned all of these areas to be very close together, so I'm filling as much space that's available to zone as I can. What I don't want to do is do that in a place where I want it to feel a little bit more rural, a little bit more forested, a little bit more remote. So that's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do first is build out the roads and the infrastructure for it. Okay, you can see I have put in all of the roads and all of the plumbing needed for this area. And so what we'll do is we'll start actually zoning this. So as I was saying, you can see the way I've zoned these is all full. Every zone possible that could be zoned is zoned within a specific space. So it has this, even though it's low density residential by the game standards, it feels a lot tighter together. It feels like a very close suburb or neighborhood. What I want to do in this area is zone it so it's a little bit more distant from each other. So I'm not going to use the entire zonable area. And in fact, I'm going to skip some of these so that the whole area, none of this area might be used. Now, this is not an ideal way to zone if you're trying to provide as many homes as possible. I'm using a very small amount of my infrastructure area, the area that I could use. You'll also see one of the things I'm doing is providing a variety of shapes so that the homes look a little bit different. This is all done with the marquee tool, which is a little bit of a different tool than we've been using. So I'm just selecting a few of these at a time. There's a couple situations where I've probably zoned a little bit too much, and there's some situations where I might have zoned a little bit too little. But the goal here is not to make it feel uniform. It's to make it feel a little bit more distant, a little bit less in the way of homes. And I'm going to make this very remote out here, make a little bit larger home there, so there's just very few around. So as you come in a little bit closer to the city, we're going to get a little bit more dense in the way we zone down in here. We're going to add a few more homes in a tighter formation, and they're going to be a little bigger lots, but not completely filling it the way these are. And then once we're in here, we're just going to make all of these filled out. This is a very typical kind of suburban neighborhood. And we'll put a few homes on the main road. Now, one thing about this approach is that you will need to potentially run power to make sure you don't have any issues. So you can see some of those homes are coming in. And already you can tell the difference in feel from this little neighborhood here, where we have a couple homes, little smaller homes, to say down here where we have a little bit more development, larger homes, and more traffic. They are still both low density residential, but we're just trying to keep it a little bit more forested, rural, kind of undeveloped out here. So let's go ahead and do this on this William Campbell Street. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to switch back to the marquee tool. So these homes will slowly develop over time. And you can see as dawn is appearing, you can begin to see how they take shape. So you can see how much more loose these feel. This is not fully developed. We do have a few more homes that will appear here over time. I'm going to actually go ahead and zone one more in there and one more in here. But you'll notice just how more remote it feels. All the way through. And we can follow these roads all the way down and see in the next section it's the same. And some of the roads are not yet developed at all. We don't have anything growing there yet. So you can see the residential demand has dropped quite a bit, and we're picking up on our commercial demand. Let's go ahead and expand our commercial area here. We've got a couple different places we can do that, but I think we'll go ahead and develop this small section here, just add a couple little shops to it. And I'm again going back to larger developments on these, but I can actually, let's just do the same thing as we were doing there. So it's a little bit smaller, the buildings may not be quite as large that way, and it gives you more of a gradual increase into the commercial area. Over here, what I want to do is add a little bit of a shopping center type of area. And what I'm going to do, I think I might split this here. And what I can do is I can put some of the commercial along this road here. And it gives a little more of a shopping center feel. I'm still going to expand out on the main drag here on Smith Street, so that there is commercial there, but then we'll have this little shopping center on the inside on Carroll Street. So let's check on our residential again real quick up here. You can see this is our more traditional subdivision. It's a little bit closer together, and people are moving in. The houses are being built and people are moving in. It will take a little bit for that to happen. And you can see how that's contrasted already, just the difference building up here. These are a little bit farther apart. They have to do some earth moving. And then as you get in here into this more remote area, and you've got more forest, you've got a little bit more isolated homes, and going up here as well. Yep, look at that. So it's a trade-off. We can choose how much we really want to develop these areas. This is not the most efficient use of this roadway, but we want a little bit lighter feel, a little more remote feel up here, where people are a little bit farther apart. They're not quite as close together as our main city areas. And the homes are also quite a bit smaller up here too. So okay, so let's go ahead and change our focus. While those are still being developed, we have a medium demand for industry. We did not zone more industry. I'm going to go ahead and put in some water pipes here to build this up. I did put the roads in earlier. And I've made this more of a grid area. This is a little bit different from how we did all of the residential in this entire city. We've put this a little bit more grid style. And that's just because it feels more appropriate for an industrial kind of build-up, to be gridded and efficient. Let's check back in on our buses real quick. We've now changed over everything, so we can see the buses are running. Our residents are slightly higher that we had. It was, I think, 160 some before. And we can look at this line and see how it's doing. So we're doing okay. Some of them are a little bit higher than the previous capacity. Some of them are a bit lower. We may be able... Oh, see, there's a bus right here that's carrying 52. The previous capacity of the bus that we had was 30. And so this is carrying 52, quite a bit more. It does mean that some of these are empty. You can see there's a couple buses here and there that are empty. And so I'm guessing we could probably actually reduce the number of vehicles, but I'm going to leave it for now. We are going to be building up our capacity. You can see most of the people got off right there. We're losing... Yeah, some of the people get off, I think, in the commercial area down in here, down at this stop. Oh, I missed this earlier, just that little offshoot. I'm going to go ahead and extend this a little bit farther up here. So I'm using again some variation of the number of houses that can reach up here, and I'm putting them in different places. And this neighborhood does not have power, so we'll go ahead and extend that. Go ahead and add water out to this. And power is already reaching over there. Now, if I really wanted a truly rural experience, I could have made all of these roads a dirt road. That's an option here. I could have used, or it's actually a gravel road. That is totally ideal for this type of a situation, but I decided to keep them as paved roads. Just for now and for the simplicity of it. And these are the same roads I've used throughout the rest of the city with the street parking. So you can see homes are starting to be built up here into these mountains a little bit. And that's pretty good. So again, this is all low-density residential, which is the same as the residential farther down in the city, but it does have a very different look when it's more isolated up here. So you can tell we've got quite a nice development here. There will be more building up over time. The one challenge we will have in the next episode is dealing with all the services that are needed for those homes. We have to add in clinics and medical and of all types, as well as fire and police and education. So that's a little bit harder when we have it farther out. So we'll tackle that next time, as well as continue refining our traffic. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Lawford, and we'll see you next time.